Every night at dinner, a servant whispers 3 words to the most powerful man on earth: Master, remember the Athenians. King Darius, the Persian Empire. Athens? What did you do to make this king hate you that much? You better be ready to fight. The Persians are coming for Athens. This is the first European invasion, threatening freedom, democracy, and self-rule that the Athenians just got done inventing. We've crossed over 500 BC into this next era, into the classical age, and I'm so excited for this lesson. I've taught it over 100 times. This lesson is the first that I've ever taught after I've been to Marathon. I've visited Marathon and Thermopylae to see how the Persians did it. How do they invade? And I learned that the word marathon is a field of fennel. I want to make you a Battle of Marathon expert. I'm Mr. Hull, and this is Ancient History. Welcome to Classical Kingdoms, where timeless stories reveal truth and wisdom for your journey. This journey is for you in the beach of Marathon, the bay of Marathon, the swamp at Marathon. And if you were one of those Athenians standing at that beach, watching the Persians unload their ships and their horses, what would you do? This is lesson number 32 in your ancient history course. It's the miracle of the Fennel Field. We are going to ask these big questions about Athens. How do they save democracy for the entire world, or will they? We'll discover how it shapes history, and that includes your journey. So in this lesson, the year is 490 BC, and these two tectonic plates are about to collide. On one side, you have the sprawling imperial majesty of Persia. And on the other side, you have just a group of different Greek city-states, fractured, they're independent, and they're facing off this giant. The Persian Empire is led by King Darius I, the top predator of every region in the Near East, and now he's heading over your way to Greece. He had already swallowed up Lydia, Babylon, Egypt. If you're coming here from lesson number 19, that was a big deal. And now Athens is going rogue. They're not joining the Persians. In fact, they're stirring things up. So first, let's go down this list. Let's see, what did Athens do? Their original sin of diplomacy that actually sold the city to the Persians accidentally. Second, we'll reveal some struggles about these Greek colonies revolting against the Persians, making them very mad. Third, let's analyze the impossible choice at the Fennel Field, at Marathon, what the Greeks were doing. They're outnumbered. They're facing this giant. Let's learn about the battle. So by the end of this lesson, you're going to be leveled up as a classical scholar, one step further on your journey to preserve Western civilization. It's not the end of the story at all, but we have to know Marathon. To understand Marathon, the Battle of Marathon from 490 BC, we've got to go back a few decades. The political scars of Athens, because for much of the 6th century BC, Athens had been ruled by Pisistratus and his sons. He had like a dynasty. He was a tyrant, first ever tyrant, Tyrannos. Pisistratus, his son Hippias and Hipparchus. Originally, it just meant a tyrant. He gained his power in an unconstitutional way. Pisistratus, in his reign, actually flourished. I mean, Athens flourished economically. They beautified the city, did a lot of nice things, festivals. Everybody likes festivals, but the nature of this rule darkened significantly after the assassination of Hipparchus, son of Pisistratus, and his brother Hippias. Hippias descends into paranoia and cruelty. And he thinks he needs to execute some of the citizens. He needs to impose heavy taxes. Kind of, now we're getting into the bad word of tyrant. This period of harsh tyranny traumatized Athenian demos, the Athenian people who had been developing power to the people. Things had been shifting. They were seeing kind of the beginnings of democracy, and it has created now a deep-seated fear of tyrannical power, arbitrary power, where people can just take power in Athens without a constitutional pathway. So a different clan bribes the Delphi oracle people, the priest that's working in the Apollo temple. Have you been to Delphi? Have you heard of Delphi before? Because this is where you go to understand things. The oracle at Delphi will present messages, and these Spartans came to the oracle at Delphi, where the message to the Spartans: liberate Athens. King Callimachus of Sparta marched in to liberate Athens. What does that mean? Liberate them, free them from Hippias. He besieged Athens with Hippias in the Acropolis. Hippias surrendered to the Spartans. Hippias was exiled. Thank you, Sparta, I think. So Hippias is out. But this detail actually changes everything, because Hippias did not disappear. He fled across the Aegean Sea to a Persian satrap of Sardis. Oh, Sardis. Do you remember Sardis? It's the place that coins were invented. Gold was flowing in the rivers. In Sardis, he waited and strategized. How could he get his tyrant job back? So that's happening. He actively advised the Persians now. He told them what the Greeks were like. He told them about the Greek geography. He told them about the Bay of Marathon. Told them about politics. He promised the Persians that a significant faction within Athens will support Persia. And when the Persian fleet sailed in 490 BC, Hippias is there. Hippias is on board. Hippias is helping. He's the geography guy that knows Marathon is the perfect place. And I don't want to give away too much about the beauty of Marathon Bay and my visit there. And as you can see, the geography of it, it is a wide open area that would really favor a large invasion force. Plenty of room for your ships to unload all the troops. And if you've got horses, whoa, this would be the first invasion of Europe. And then Hippias could get his old job back and take the power of Athens and submit. But Hippias was really trying to plot a revolution with the help of the Persians. And Cleisthenes has already instituted some reforms that shattered the power bases of the old families like Hippias, the aristocracy type rule of the old families. He's got democracy going now. He has reorganized the citizens into new tribes based on geography, not based on how you're born. And so things have really changed in Athens since Hippias was kicked out. Men now fought and voted as members of their tribe, 10 tribes in Athens. And the army is now reorganized into 10 regiments, each commanded by the taxiarch. This meant that the Phalanx at Marathon was like a physical wall built by democracy people, by people that have seen now, and they were raised into this. It's like a generation. They believe in what they're fighting for. Each man stood next to a fellow citizen from the different parts of Attica. That's the region that Athens is leading and in charge of. And they know that they have law behind them, that they have a society, they've got citizenship. So this political cohesion, what is cohesion? They're bound together. It's more than a sports team. The cohesion, the identity that they have now as Athenians, as Greeks. The camaraderie the fraternity is almost like a secret weapon for Athens. But this new democracy has made a fatal mistake. Terrified of a Spartan reprisal, Cleisthenes sent ambassadors to Sardis in the Persian Empire in Anatolia. He sent ambassadors over there to seek a Persian alliance, like peace treaty. The Persian satrap, Artaphernes, agreed on one condition, that they had to offer earth and water to the great king. Okay. Offering earth and water to the great Persian king. In Persian protocol, this is an act of total submission. Oh, well, the ambassadors perhaps misunderstood the significance of this type of an agreement. Oops. So when they returned, the Athenian assembly was furious, rejected this extreme position. But the Persian bureaucratic mind that this contract was already sealed. Athens was already subjugated. Did you know that? This is a point in class I could just say, hey, game over. They already signed. It's like when you sign up for your free trial and you don't read all the fine details, and then all of a sudden you've got recurring charges and payments, and this is far more serious. The Athenian ambassadors did something unthinkable by signing this contract without understanding the protocol, the culture behind it, and the Persians viewed this resistance now. Like, what do you think they would view it as? Put yourself on the Persian side now. We already agreed to this peace treaty. We already agreed to the gift of earth and water. And if you're rebelling, you are being disobedient. Like you are a disobedient slave, and masters will punish this rebellion. The Persians are coming to collect that debt, to collect the earth and water that you promised. And we're going to bring Hippias to regain his job as landlord. Do you think that sounds like enough to start the invasion of Greece? Persia's taken over everything else. Why wouldn't Greece be next? But there's more to this catalyst. What is a catalyst? It's the combination of these factors. The small catalyst in connection with something else is going to create this reaction. And we've got a small fire that's about to turn into an uncontrollable blaze. We are now talking the year 499 BC. The Ionian Greeks of Asia Minor. What are Greeks doing on the coast of Asia Minor? What are Greeks doing in Anatolia? They colonize. The Greeks have had some successful years. It's not just Athens that's flourishing. Of course, they're developing democracy ahead of everyone else. It's changed the world. You know this, but all of Greece is doing very well. They're colonizing. They're spreading east, west, even to the south. And these Ionian Greeks, they are in Anatolia. They're in a satrap of the Persians. The Persians already are getting to know them. Like Aristogoras of Miletus. Well, there's a good Greek traveling to the mainland of Greece, seeking aid, saying that the Persians are starting to get a little annoying. Well, Sparta refused to give any help to Miletus. See, Miletus is a famous island. It's an important island, still a Greek island today, but Sparta's not going to help. Too far. Sparta's not getting involved in foreign affairs. Sparta likes to stay local. But Athens, it's kind of like wants to be the mother city, doing well. They're persuaded to help Miletus. So they voted for 20 triremes. What is a trireme? Well, something Athens was good at, has invented 3 rows of rowers, 3 levels of rowers in their warships. So they voted to send 20 triremes, like a small, wall of wood. These ships are heading to help. Herodotus, our friendly Greek historian, He ominously called these ships the beginning of the evils for Greeks and barbarians. Who is the first? Technically, who's the first barbarian? It's the Persians. This new challenger has emerged in here. The Greek force, with Greeks now on the move, 20 triremes heading to Miletus, they don't stop there. This allied Greek force marches on Sardis. In the chaos, a soldier accidentally sets fire to a house. The fire spread rapidly through reed-thatched roofs. It consumed the city and the Temple of Cybele. This act of destruction was interpreted by the Persians as supreme sacrilege. Sardis was the terminus city, the end city of the Royal Road. Do you remember the Royal Road? It's almost the beginning of the Silk Road. And from Sardis to Susa. And Sardis is the place where coins were invented. King Darius hears that Sardis has been burned. King Darius was furious. He asked, "Who are the Athenians?" He took his bow and he shot an arrow into the sky and he prayed to mighty Zeus for vengeance. Why not? To ensure his anger did not cool, he commanded a servant to repeat 3 times, every single dinner, "Master, remember the Athenians." It feels like growing up for me, Michigan. How many days to the Michigan game? Did I mention I'm from Ohio State? I grew up here. My dad was a professor at The Ohio State University. We know when we play Michigan. This is rivalry of all rivalries that now King Darius is building up for years. So what do you do? What do you do when this rivalry needs an invasion? You hire people to plan it. You know, you've already heard Hippias knows the geography, but Artaphernes and Datis, remember the names, young commanders who will build this invasion force. 600 triremes is what the Persians are able to pull together. And they introduced a logistical innovation that could transport horses. There's quite a lot of engineering that goes into shipping the cavalry. Cavalry, what is a cavalry? Something very special with the Persians and their horses. They were so good. But how do you ship it across open water? This is rare, very dangerous. But the Persians knew that this would make a huge advantage in a battle, in an invasion against Athens. So that's the plan. The Persians want a heavy cavalry directly hitting Greek soil. So the fleet moved through the islands. They sacked Naxos. Naxos, that was an island. I rented mopeds in college. We rode around. We could see these sites. Naxos is a key trade and great location for, location for being attacked. It's right in the way. When they reached Delos, a very sacred island, where was Apollo born? Datis forbid any looting. In fact, to ensure that Apollo would be on their side, the Persians left frankincense, a huge amount, 12 talents or something crazy of frankincense for Apollo at the Apollo temple. Wasn't that nice? On their way to invade. He was positioning the Persians as pious agents. What is piety? Pious. He's showing religious practice that's being pious of the Greeks. So it's not really for Apollo, it's for all the people that like Apollo. If Datis and the Persians show deference, show respect, show favor to Apollo, won't the Greeks join in Isn't that how Persians been doing it this whole way? Didn't one of the Persians become a pharaoh of Egypt? Like, this is good marketing. This is good messaging. Next stop is Eretria. For 6 days, the Eretrians fought bravely from their walls, but the fatal flaw of the Greek polis, the Greek city-state, appeared. Internal factionalism kind of doomed them because two prominent citizens opened the gates to the Persians. Why would they do that? They hoped for lenient treatment. They hoped to join the Persian Empire the way so many other societies have done, but instead, the temples were burned. The population was enslaved by the Persians because Darius knows, do not forget the Athenians. And this is just one step closer. The fall of Eretria proved that walls are useless if treason lurked from within. Treason is not virtuous. It's a distraction of the Greeks thinking they should get a better deal. You can build all the walls you want in a society, strengthen all the people, the city-state that you can, but if your city is divided, if your character is not strong, you'll fall. And the Athenians knew that there were traitors inside their own city, waiting to open the gates to the Persians, just like at Eretria. They had to make a choice. Stay behind the walls, risk betrayal, or march out to meet that monster. What would you do? Would you trust your neighbor? Would you trust your fellow citizen of Athens? Or would you want to make a deal with the Persians? Leave it in the comments. What is smart? What is wise? What is virtuous? Press the like button. Let's move on. The Persians are almost here. We need to talk geography, and that's the excitement of being on location. So when I visited here, we had a lot of excitement. We were all ready to see these famous battle sites. And you'll hear many references to geography and topography. What is topography? The actual terrain of the land. Greece is very walled up by its own mountains. Does that make sense? Like, there's very few ways to get between the mountains. They really separate the different city-states. It's one reason why Greek city-states developed so independently. So take a look now at Piraeus. Piraeus is the port entry area of Athens. This is where the Persians could invade Athens head on. See, we have a cruise ship in the way, but I mean, picture this in ancient times, that it would just be kind of a ramp up to Athens. It's not that far away. It's just a few miles. It's a stunning view looking down from the top, and you can see that Athens at different times has even built walls to protect this pathway to Piraeus. Piraeus is the port. That's where they could get invaded. But do you think that would be smart? Like, where do you think Persia needs to land their ships? Well, not very far away is a field of fennel. Hippias knows all about it. Hippias is the old tyrant, and he suggested this bay at Marathon. So finally, when I arrived at Marathon and we were able to see this wide beach and stay there too. Shout out to George, our Airbnb guy, planning many trips back. I'll say more about this later, just what the experience is like for being such an important area. And the people that we met, they were so excited to see Americans, kind of amazed. So again, I'll wrap that up in the conclusion. But we're talking about geography right now. And so we're making the point that this is the best place for hundreds of ships to unload men and horses. It was a good place for shelter for this fleet. There's only one kind of choke point to pass through. In this big wide open plain at the beach in this landing area, it's perfect for cavalry maneuvers and a battle, troop formations. But Hippias had a surprise. It's a problem. It's a dream. Herodotus tells us about this dream. He was dreaming that he was there. He was sleeping at his home. His mother was there taking care of him. So he interprets this optimistically. His mother's taking care of him. It would mean that he would possess his native earth once again, like his mom taking care of me. But just when he lands, he is seized by a violent fit of coughing. Have you ever had that? You're just coughing uncontrollably. He had a loose tooth. It was dislodged and fell into the sand. He searched frantically for the loose tooth. Hippias groaned in the pain, and it made him realize he misinterpreted the dream. Now, don't laugh. Like, was that a good dream or bad dream? To the Greeks, this is a bad omen. He is now calling for a tragedy. The land will not be his. The tooth holds whatever share of it was his. And that's going to be it. This tyrant is not going to win. Athens still has to deal with this invading force. Now, panic has struck the people of Athens. Why did panic strike? What is panic from the god Pan? Well, our favorite runner is Pheidippides. Pheidippides is a professional runner, a courier. What is a courier? Well, this is how messages spread. Pheidippides. Our Greek tour guide, Michael, he pronounced Pheidippides. Should I say Pheidippides? This is the famous runner. He can run dozens of miles a day, 100 miles in a day, 150 miles, all the way to Sparta to ask Sparta for help. He arrives just within a day or so. And this is like a superhuman messenger, a runner, this cross-country runner. He asks Sparta, he delivers the message. He is just the message delivery, and Sparta says, we're busy. We can't come right now. We can't come immediately because we are in the middle of a religious ceremony, a festival. We can't disrupt the gods. We have to be pious. We're going to be pious about our religious practice until the moon was full. Then we could march when the moon is full. So, okay, that's a problem. Sparta's going to be late to this battle. When Pheidippides returns, he encounters the god Pan. The goat-footed deity Pan complained that Athens is never paying attention to him. Pan promised to help them. He's like, hey, why don't they like me? Why don't they pay attention? Look, I will bring them the weapon of panic to this battle. Pan promised to help and show Athens, pay attention to me. So the Athenian army marches out just before the plain at Marathon in this choke point. I've stood in this choke point. It was exciting just to look for it because there's only one way past this. After you land at Marathon, there's only one way in. And then it's still 26 miles to Athens, but they camped out at the sanctuary of Heracles. Sometimes you say Hercules, that's the Roman name. But they were joined by 1,000 brave hoplites from Plataea, not too far away in Boeotia. So that's 10,000 Athenians, 1,000 Plataeans, and this is a good gesture of loyalty. Deeply moving to the Athenians. And the camp is full, and it starts. The waiting. The waiting begins. There are 10 Athenian generals. 10 Athenian generals were evenly split. 5 voted to fight, 5 voted to retreat. Miltiades was an Athenian general who sensed that morale was wavering. So he goes to the polemarch Callimachus. Callimachus held the tie-breaking vote. Miltiades told him, with you it rests, Callimachus. either to bring Athens to slavery or to secure her free. He warned that if they did not fight, a great disturbance would shake men's resolution, their resolve, and they would submit. Because Persia's making deals. Persia's got a huge empire. Callimachus casts his vote for battle. And now it begins. Have you been in this position? Can you imagine the weight on your shoulders, knowing what Persia's like? Have you ever been the deciding vote, like in a group? It's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. You've got to vote for, where are we going to eat? What's the dinner? What's the meal? What are we going to watch? Imagine the pressure, the fate. Did you know that all of Western civilization rests on your voice? Miltiades, Callimachus, they knew that waiting meant, what does it mean? I should ask you that. The longer they wait, what is Persia doing? They're unloading their ships, they're organizing, but remember what happened? The traitors, the treason, you're working out deals. They're convincing people to join the Persians. Waiting is giving the enemy, the invader, all the advantages. Action is now. It's the only antidote to stop treason. People joining the Persians. So you don't want to miss out on the full understanding of someone like Callimachus, because that could be you, knowing the weight, the importance of all of this. I would encourage you, check out all these lessons. Go back to lesson 30. Go to classicalkingdoms.com, where this entire ancient history course is going to help you understand the situation that we're in right now at the plains of Marathon, camped out, watching the Persians unload and invade and get ready. And Sparta is not coming. It's just the Athenians and a few Plataeans. So here we go. It's early September, 490 BC. We've arrived at the moment of decision finally. Why did the Greeks decide for this time the Kairos? What is Kairos? The seizing the opportunity. The moment is now. Why did they pick this? Miltiades saw the Persian horses were being loaded back onto the ships. What does that mean? He saw the horses and he sees this moment because, at least right now, the horses are not able to fight, being loaded back on the ships. But why are they being loaded back on the ships? This was a time of vulnerability for the Persians because they're trying to logistically organize. They're not in a battle formation with the horses. So Miltiades makes this radical adjustment and sets up the Phalanx. Now, we didn't say how greatly outnumbered they were. I'm sorry, that was my fault. They're outnumbered at least 8-1. Miltiades says, here's one way we're going to thin our center lines. He makes this radical adjustment to the Phalanx. Phalanx, what is the Phalanx? When we say lines, what are the lines of a Phalanx? The heavily armored Greeks could overlap their shields just enough to make a wall. And so one line of troops with their shields, it's heavy. It's actually like 50 pounds of equipment each man is carrying in battle. And when they kind of overlap and they form a group, a line, it's like a wall, but then there's a wall behind them and another wall behind them. And typically it's 8 deep, and they're pushing from the back. They're forming the solid wall that can't be broken. When you hear about lines being broken, the Phalanx is this strong, unbroken line after line after line. Okay, so I said all that because that's an understanding of the Phalanx, but Miltiades says we're going to just make 4 deep in the center because we're so heavily outnumbered. We'll keep the wings strong, but not in the center. Well, as they march out, they're at about 1,500 meters. They get closer. They get closer. The Persians saw the movement. The formations are coming toward them. They didn't have their cavalry to come and attack, and instead they move out the archers. The archers, they're going to shoot arrows at these guys. As the Greek lines advance, the distance is hundreds of yards between the two armies. And the Persians see there are no cavalry or archers supporting the Greeks at all. And then the most unexpected thing happens. The Greek armies start running. They start sprinting across the battlefield. It's like football field after football field. They're weighted down by their heavy equipment. They've got 50 pounds per person. The Persians saw a small force of crazy people. This is madness. But Miltiades had calculated this sprint, and it's unexpected, no doubt. Why did they run? Why did they run so fast all the way? Because you're going to be winded. You're going to be... But the Greeks had this event in their Olympics. They had it in their games. They trained for this moment. It's Kairos. It's seizing the moment. And by running across the battlefield, did you pick this up? Did you guess? It takes the Persian archers out of play because they've advanced too quickly, and they're now within range of the archers even hitting their own, because the archers are behind everybody, behind the Persians. So now, as this running force is now clashing up against the bronze, the clash, the heaviness to the Persians, have wicker works shields, heavy bronze shields smashed into those light wicker shields of the Persians. And so a thin center line for a long time, that held. The Greeks were able to hold that line. The Persians pushed the Greeks back somewhat because they just outnumbered them so much, just as Miltiades expected, kind of pushing. But the heavy Greek wings now that are 8 deep in their phalanx, they shattered the Persians. They executed a very difficult maneuver in this Persian, in the military formation. They wheeled inward. They clamped down on the Persian center. It was like a vice, a phalanx vice. Panic. This is the panicon. Persians started fleeing, seeing that they just are not outnumbered, but they're just outstrengthed. They're being smashed by a vice. They started to flee. Their swampy marshes are, some of the Persians are now drowning. They're just trying to get to the ships. They're trying to make it out. The Greeks chased them down, chased the ships, fought in the beach that I was walking in. Callimachus, the polemarch, was actually killed here. But the history of it is that he was upright in his death because he was pierced by the spears. He was strong. He was courageous. He had virtue. Some Athenians died here, but the Greeks killed 6,400 Persians compared to 192 is the official number. 6,400 to 192. At a heavily outnumbered, they were the underdogs. Does it sound like a victory right now? Well, do you remember back when the horses were being loaded back onto the ships? Did you know that some of the Persian fleet had already left? Some of the Persian fleet was heading south towards the Piraeus that I showed you, not with the cruise ship. It was the place that the Persians could land and directly attack Athens. Why would they do that? Because the army is 26 miles away. The army is out here in the plains of Marathon, so the Persian fleet thinks that Athens is undefended. And traders in the city of Athens have signaled that the gate is open. This exhausted Athenian army that just killed 6,400 Persians is going to have to do another miraculous run. 26 miles. They marched back to Athens in full armor in the heat of this day. Who arrived first? The Greeks. The Athenians were standing there on the hill as the ships were pulling up to Piraeus. What does Datis see? The Greek men that they had just fought against, that had just killed thousands of Persians. They were lining the bay, the coastal area, the ports. Datis gives up, turns his ships around, and returns to Asia, returns to Anatolia. Sparta shows up the next day. Thank you, Sparta. They had marched 140 miles in 3 days, and the Spartan army saw Persian corpses. They praised the Athenians, but felt a little unsettled. And Athens will remind everyone of this victory to think about on each visit when you go to Delphi. When you go to Delphi and you walk past this, the treasury of Athens, it's a trophy to what Miltiades did in leading the Athenians against the mighty Persians. Have you done something like this? Can you imagine the impact we know today is what the Persians would have done with democracy, what they might have done with the Athenians. But the victory celebrated with the treasury at Delphi for everyone to understand. Delphi is the center of understanding. Do you understand it? When we were there at Marathon, we were visiting this tumulus, the tomb hill, and there were so many 8th graders from Greece there. 8th graders going on their school trips because that's what Greeks do. And they're wondering, wow, these Americans. So the surprising thing about Marathon is the very, very little tourism there. I don't get it. It's a beautiful beach town. We had a lot of fun. We loved our Airbnb and the places that we went, but there's no real tourist attraction. Very little. And so when 8th graders heard our appreciation for saving democracy, they were kind of surprised, and some of the teachers that we talked to also were very thankful that we would come to visit this site. So I want to go again and again. I would love to build an attraction, a big, if you've ever been to Gettysburg, I think this should be the type of place that Gettysburg is here in the United States, a real turning point in the history of the country. The pursuit of truth about Western civilization and freedom and democracy is something that we get from this story of Marathon. The Athenians were free men fighting for their laws, for their fraternity, their tribes, their culture. They didn't know the future impact. And it's more than just democracy. If the Persians had won and they could have extinguished all of this innovation, the philosophy, the theater, they would have just tramped over the Greeks in this field of Fennel and changed human history forever. And remember our runner, Pheidippides, who ran all the way to Sparta. Well, he was one who was there at Marathon. At the point of victory, his message to take back was a 26.2 mile run to the Agora of Athens to announce Nike victory when he died. There's a lot of running in this story with the troops running. It's a legacy in your town. Do you host a marathon run? Boston has a famous one, Chicago, Athens. As you can see, these runners are coming into the Olympic Stadium, the 1896 Olympic Stadium that brought the modern Olympics to life. This marathon race is run in honor of a legend. We run to remember Pheidippides, to remember the victory. He did not just run to Sparta, but he ran from the battlefield just to announce the triumph and to alert Athenians. Don't commit treason. Have virtue. He burst into the agora, this sprawling place you can see where people gather to understand what is going on. His heart would have been pounding. He would have been excited. Pheidippides grasped out just that one final word, Nike, victory, and then collapsed. And he died. He gave his life for that message of hope. Don't commit treason. Be virtuous in honor of all these great people fighting for their ideals, fighting for their beliefs, for freedom, for democracy. And what will you take forward from this day, from this lesson? Thank you for taking the time to learn something that matters in all of history, and that includes your history. Some classical truth for your journey and for your marathon run. Because kingdoms rise and fall, power fades, but virtue endures.